Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Heartbender, and it is, what do you think about an update being instituted in Battlefield or in a future Battlefield title to be able to tell where an enemy player is in relation to yourself in terms of being above or below you? I always seem to come across being in a close quarter situation with enemies pinged on my minimap, but I'm unaware if they are above me or at the same level. Maybe a different shape ping on the minimap, such as a circle if they are above you or faded triangle if they are below you. What are your thoughts? This is a marvelous idea, and admittedly, I have no idea why DICE hasn't already added a system like this into Battlefield 4. There is a lot of verticality into this game. You look at Siege of Shanghai, Dawnbreaker, basically every single map in this game has some sort of verticality. Actually, I would say Flood Zone is the best example of this. On Flood Zone, there are countless occasions where I see plenty of people on the minimap, but then when I try to investigate where they are, I'm down below, assuming that they're going to be around the corner. Of course they're not around the corner. They're 20 feet above me in, one of the rooftops. It's not game breaking by any means. I am just nitpicking at this point. But how easy would it be to have a system in place where if an enemy is 10 feet above you or 10 feet below, it would change the icon? Maybe it's not all the way filled in, maybe it's a different color, grayed out, a lot of different ways that you can approach it, but it would give you a little bit more information at your fingertips. Not only that, but it also goes into the realm of realism. And I know I hate going with the realism play in video games, and honestly, this is loosely because you don't have a minimap in real life. But if you think about it, if you spot an enemy for your buddy, you're like, hey, that guy on the roof, watch out. He's not gonna be like, wait, where is he? Is he down below? Is he on the lower section? No, I just told you he's on the roof. Why would you assume he's on the ground? So it also has some realism factor in there as well. I think that this would be a great addition in the game. I can't see it detracting from the experience at all, and I think overall the Battlefield community would embrace this type of mechanic. The next question for today comes from Edvin, and it is, I was wondering what you would think of introducing a ranking system similar to the one in Counter-Strike Go in the upcoming Battlefield Hardline. If you're not familiar with it, it's a system based on skill, win-loss, KD, score, etc., instead of playtime. This would increase the longevity of the game since you always would be driven to evolve your skill in order to rank up or just hold on to your current rank. What are your thoughts? I would love if Visceral decided to do something like this, because while I know that they've said that they are not going to be focusing 100% on the competitive scene, they are not going to be dedicating all of their time to making a esports game by any means, they have mentioned that there are going to be competitive game modes like 5 versus 5. And what I'm envisioning is to have your normal epic Battlefield type as a server. So these are what we already have right now in like Battlefield 4, for example. You got 32 versus 32, 16 versus 16, nothing is going to change in that department. But how amazing would it be if there was another section of the game where you could join a ranking system and then have 5 versus 5 competitive game modes? That would be fantastic. It would work the same way that Counter-Strike does right now, or really every other competitive shooter out there, where it would match you up with people that are around the same skill level based off your win-loss ratio or maybe some other factors, and then it would also pit you against people that are around that same skill level, and then you can have that competitive type of gameplay in a Battlefield title. You don't really get that in Battlefield 4 unless you're part of a community. Like, for example, if you join a 5 versus 5 server, first of all, it's probably going to be uneven teams. One team is going to be like 3 versus 4 or 4 versus 5, so it's going to be uneven in that department. But the skill level also might be just all over the place. One team might be stacked, the other one might be crap, you get stomped, that's not fun, it's not fun for anyone. And getting two teams that are 5 versus 5 so that you have even teams, but also around the same skill level is nearly impossible to do in Battlefield. And so if Visceral was able to set something like this up, God, that would be incredible. The only resistance that we might run into, though, is that this may add further costs on the part of Visceral, and they may just not want to have those types of costs. I don't know how it works on console, but at least on PC, EA and DICE are not the ones that are sponsoring servers. The servers are rented out by the community. Like community members are spending a couple of dollars every single month to have these servers up and running. And so if Visceral wanted to have a system like this in place, they would probably need to put down the cash to rent them servers and have dedicated servers on their end. That way, all of the rounds are going to be consistent with the rules. We don't have admins that have a vendetta against a certain class or vendettas against certain players. It's going to be fair for every single round that you join into, and all of that, of course, is going to cost money. Money I'm not 100% certain that Visceral really wants to be spending on. And so, overall, I think that this is a phenomenal idea. Not only would it be amazing for the competitive scene, but it also probably extend the life of the game. Like, if you're able to make a competitive scene work and you have some awesome game modes around it that has a thriving community, you look at Counter-Strike, you look at other competitive shooters out there, the reason why they're still around is because of that competitive scene. And if they're able to do it in Battlefield Hardline, that would be fantastic. The next question for today is, I was wondering what your thoughts were with regard to the defensive perk in the newest patch. With the most recent decrease in damage, is there any reason to run the upgrade? No, you are definitely onto something with this, because right now there just simply isn't as large of incentive to use the defensive field upgrade path since this big patch update. The reason why everyone used it before was simply because they wanted to have a leg up on the competition. If you were using this field upgrade and your enemy wasn't, but you guys were both using the same weapon, you had the same accuracy, and you started the firefight at the exact same time, technically, that field upgrade is going to give you a leg up, and you should come to that firefight alive because it's going to require one extra bullet for them to take you out. This is the reason why everyone gravitated towards it. Like, why wouldn't you want to have that awesome advantage over your enemy? Like, that's a huge advantage. The entire system, though, revolved around the mechanic that you need to put 4 bullets in your enemy, doing 25 damage apiece, adding up to 100 to, of course, kill your enemy. You add in the defensive field upgrade path, which I think reduces the damage by 10%. Well, if you reduce the damage by 10% and you're already just at that damage threshold to kill someone, you need to put 1 extra round into that person to take them out. Like, that is the idea of the entire system. But the fact that DICE reduced the damage of basically every gun in the game so that it now does 24 damage per shot up close, well, now it requires 5 rounds to kill your enemy anyways, and if you add up all those 5 rounds, you now do 120 damage, which far exceeds the 100 HP threshold that you need to kill someone. You then add in the defensive field upgrade path, reducing the damage by 10%. That 10% doesn't do anything for you anymore, and now really, it's almost completely useless, or at least the reasons why people were using it in the past. And for me personally, I prefer this type of system simply because it opens up more viable field upgrade paths that you can choose from. You look at any other first-person shooter that allows you to either increase your damage or mitigate damage, people are going to gravitate towards those perk upgrades. Like, it's guaranteed. This was a big problem back in Bad Company 2. I love the Bad Company series. I thought it was a phenomenal game, but you look at what everyone was running for their specialization, it was either the Magnum ammo, which increased your damage, or it was the defensive upgrade that, of course, mitigated the damage. And if you weren't using either one of those, you were not going to be very successful on the battlefield. And in that type of system, diversity is just tossed out the window. Like, if everyone at the end of the life cycle in Bad Company is using just 1 or 2 specializations out of like 10 that are available, you didn't do a very good job of balancing every single one of those out. And while I don't think the defensive field upgrade in Battlefield 4 was inherently as bad as it was back in Bad Company 2, it's not to that extent, I still hate the idea and the concept of having an upgrade, or whatever you want to call it, feel like a requirement if you want to do well in a first-person shooter. And so personally, I'm loving this indirect nerf. It's still going to be viable against aggressive recons and the bolt-action rifles. Nothing is changing there, and I think that was actually its intended use the entire time, was to make it harder for aggressive recons to just go on rampages and just hit you in the upper chest. And so overall, I love the indirect nerf, and I think that it's going to increase diversity of the field upgrades overall. The next question for today is, what do you think if pilots from choppers die or jump out, there will be a warning to passengers like a beeping sound to let them know that there is no one piloting the chopper? It's funny that you bring this up, because I think this is something that DICE is working on the CTE. I watched a video, it was like a week ago, where someone uncovered some unused voice acting on the CTE servers where each of the factions were screaming out that the pilot just left the vehicle. There's a wide variety of different voice actors. It was great, and it was just basically to give you an idea if you needed to jump into the pilot seat or if you needed to jump out yourself. It's a little silly that this already isn't in the game. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a vehicle, been like, oh, we're descending pretty quickly, Oh my god, I'm the only one in this vehicle. Of course, I then die a second later, and it sucks when that happens. I'm not sure when these will be added into the game. I'm assuming maybe it'll be in the next big patch update. I don't even think they've even mentioned this in one of their big update posts or anything like that. But I would love if they added this as soon as possible, because while it's not game breaking, it's not the end of the world when this happens to you. It would be a quality of life improvement in Battlefield 4, or really in any future Battlefield game, and it would just be a nice addition. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you would like to submit your own questions that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.